that I'll see a man in this family.
He said his wife is dead?
Yes, she was sick.
Hey, what sickness?
Aite, it is your mother that will get leukemia. It is your mother. I don't like what you are doing at all.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and Star Times box. City TV, it's your world.
You're welcome back to the big issue on 97.3 City FM. We are looking at two major issues today. We're looking at the proposed constitutional instrument, whether the Ghana card should be used as a sole document for registration for purposes of election 2024. The Parliament of Ghana is divided right in the middle. Minority says no, majority says why not. Secondly, we'll look at John Dramani Mahama's 2024 bid. We'll assess some of the promises he's been making at his campaign launch. He says he wants to scrap the ex gratia for the executive. He wants to run the country with 60 ministers and deputies. We'll find out how feasible some of these promises are. Is it just for the sake of promising the people, or there's real some feasibility in what he is telling us? So this is what we have on the table today. I'll provide you some updates, then we begin the discussion. So now the Electoral Commission has justified plans to make the Ghana card a sole identification document for voter registration ahead of the 2024 polls. Briefing Parliament on the proposed constitutional instrument for the next elections, the Electoral Commission boss, Jean Mensah, said the CI seeks to promote continuous registration of voters and will allow for an all-year-round registration of eligible voters at its district offices. There is more in the following report.
The Electoral Commission chairperson Jean Mensah appeared before the Committee of the Whole of Parliament on Tuesday to brief the House on its constitutional instrument that seeks to make the Ghana card the requisite document for registration onto the voters' register for the upcoming general elections. She justified plans by the EC to abolish the guarantor system.
For the first time in our history, we are mainstreaming the continuous registration of voters as part of our regular activities. As such, our officers in the field will be fully engaged all year round. Mr. Speaker, another significant feature of this draft constitutional instrument is the proposal to adopt the Ghana card as the sole source of identification for any person who wishes to register as a voter. This implies that the guarantor system, which hitherto allowed a registered voter to vouch for the citizenship and age of prospective applicants, will no longer be relied upon as part of our registration exercise. The reason is that over the years, the guarantor Unfortunately, we were unable to discard it much earlier due to the absence of a national identification card such as the one issued by the NIA. The challenges with the guarantor system are twofold. First of all, it opens the door for registered voters or guarantor contractors to guarantee and vouch for persons who are less than 18 years old. Secondly, it allows these guarantors to vouch for persons who are not citizens of Ghana. Such unqualified persons usually minors and foreigners, use the door of the guarantor system to try to get onto our register.
The National Identification Authority boss, Professor Kenneth Atefua, on his part, provided statistics on the number of Ghanaians enrolled onto its database and the need for a merger of data with the EC.
Based on the Ghana Statistical Service 2020 population and housing census data, approximately 31 million Ghanaians. There are approximately 31 million Ghanaians. Of this number, as I've indicated, 17,375,861 have been captured onto the National Identity Register database. And this figure represents the cohort of the population aged 15 years and above. Of the number, that is, of the 17,375,861, the number of Ghanaians aged 18 years and above captured in the database is 16.9 million. 16.9 million out of the 17.375 million. And the number of registered Ghanaians aged 18 years and above existing on the Electoral Commission's voters register, we are informed, is 17,029,000. 17,029,000 people on the EC are yet to be captured. Out of the total population of 31 million is 2,565,705.
He, however, bemoaned the inability of the National Identification Authority to print out over 500,000 of Ghana cards due to financial constraints.
The number of cards not yet printed, that is, persons who have registered, whose records are with the NIA, but whose cards have not yet been printed, stands at 541,529. Right Honourable Speaker, kindly permit me to explain that this figure, 541,529, represents the financial difficulties we have had lately, beginning approximately in July, August of last year. That resulted in an inability to get access to some 3.5 million blank cards that we have ordered into the country, which are currently in houses brought to the country by our technical partners, but we are unable to access them because of financial constraints. The banks that have basically bankrolled that purchase and importation have to be paid, and it has become a bit of financial constipation, which has also given us some headaches. Right Honourable Speaker, the assurance we have for the people of Ghana is that the National Identification Authority has the technical and operational competence to print these 541,529 cards in record time once this financial constipation is relieved.
But the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, assured of efforts to settle all outstanding arrears owed the National Identification Authority.
We agreed on 100 million CD transfer, and as he rightly said, 80 million has been put into the accounts of CAL, and 20 million, as he also mentioned, will be done by close of business today. So we are very comfortable about the situation to ensure that the needed cards will be given to the NIA to do its work. Mr. Speaker, the government
Hello, good morning. You're welcome to The Big Issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM. The show is also live on Facebook and on City Tube. You can join the discussion via our WhatsApp line 020-444-7033. My name is Selorm Adonoo. A number of things have happened this week, and this week also marked the beginning of our Independence Week. And here at City TV and City FM, we call it the Heritage Month, where there are a number of things we've lined up to help us trace and be in touch with our heritage. Indeed, this morning, patrons on the Heritage Caravan have just taken off from Accra on a tour of 14 regions of the country, and that will happen in 7 days. Very, very interesting tour that promises to be. We have two issues we want to look at this morning on the table. One is the proposed constitutional instrument. Should the Ghana card be the sole document for registration? The Electoral Commission is seeking to lay before Parliament the CI that will seek to make the NIA card or the Ghana card the sole identity document for registration for election 2024, registration to get onto the Electoral Commission's roll for elections 2024. The Parliament of Ghana is divided on that. Minority says no, we cannot do that because not everybody has the Ghana card. Majority says no, we can do it because the NIA has promised to conclude registration of everybody. Finance Minister says he has made available funds to the NIA to undertake the work and conclude it. But should that really be the case? Shouldn't we wait for the process or for everybody to access the card before we make a law out of that? Or should we also wait till everybody gets it? Then would we be making progress then? That is the discussion. But the right to vote is a constitutionally guaranteed right. Is this something we should be tinkering with? or we should make sure that the guarantor system as we have it now still works. That is the argument of the minority, that taking the guarantor system that has worked for the country all this while away without, any credible means of replacing that with the Ghana card could cause problems. The majority obviously thinks otherwise. We'll look his 2024 bid this week, and he made a number of promises. People have said that he's said all the right things and all the things that Ghanaians, have been talking about in the last few months. For example, he says that should he have another shot at the presidency, he will scrap the ex gratia for the executive. That appeared to have had some plaudits from people of Ghana. He also says that he will run the country with 60 ministers and deputies. 31 million people, it should be enough to have 60 ministers to run them rather than the over 80 we have currently. He said he's doing so to reflect the current economic conditions of the country. We'll look at that together with other promises that have been made. To help us do the discussion will be Franklin Kujo, President Imani Africa, the Honorable Alasan Suini, MP for Tamale North, the Honorable Habib Idrisu, MP for Tolon and Deputy Majority Chief Whip, and Dr. Siribo Kwaku, who is Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission. That will be our guest list for the first part. Indeed, the second part, we will have Franklin Kujo, Alasan Suhini as well, and Alexander Aban, who is a former Member of Parliament for Gomoa West, joining the discussion. Matters, welcome, gentlemen, to the program.
Thank you.
Yes, so the discussion has been on. It peaked at some point, went down, and it's come back again. Parliament had what you call the pre-laying debate, whatever that is supposed to mean, before the document itself is laid before the House. And by the dictates of the Constitution, Article 11, which talks about the hierarchy of laws, once an order, rule, or regulation is laid before Parliament, it takes 21 days for that particular document or subsidiary legislation to mature. Once that matures, it becomes law and nothing can be done about it unless you go through the processes again to revoke the law in its entirety. You cannot revoke it, or you cannot do it in bits and pieces. Everything has been revoked. Let me quote specifically the provision, Article 11.7. So Article 11.7, let me quote it in entirety. It says, any order, rule, or regulation made by a person or authority under a power conferred on this by this Constitution or any other law shall A, be laid before Parliament, which we are seeking to do, be published in the Gazette on the day it is laid before Parliament. So once it is laid, it will be published in the Gazette. 3, or C, come into force. It shall come into force at the expiration of 21 sitting days after being so laid, unless Parliament, before the expiration of the 21 days, and so they really have to work together if they want to see this through. If they don't achieve that consensus and the document is eventually laid, then it appears that after 21 sitting days of Parliament, that becomes law. So this has to do with the right to vote. And the same Constitution in Article 42 talks about the right to vote. It says that every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age and above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. Article 45 also, which empowers the electoral, or which details the functions of the Electoral Commission, says a number of things. It says that the Electoral Commission shall have the following functions. A, compile the register of voters and revise it at such periods as may be determined by law. B, to demarcate the electoral boundaries for both national and local government elections. C, to conduct and supervise all public elections and referenda. D, to educate the people on the electoral process and its purpose. E, to undertake programs for the expansion of the registration of voters. And F, to perform such other functions as may be prescribed by law. So these are the key legislations before us. Of course, there is a CI 91, and there are other subsidiary legislations that we may be referring to in the course of the discussion. So let me start off with you, Deputy Chief Whip. The Electoral Commission is seeking to lay before the House a constitutional instrument that, amongst other things, will replace the guarantor system, now solely the national ID card or the Ghana card, and do other things like the district registration or the continuous registration, etc. And your side has been resolutely behind the Electoral Commission. Can you explain to us why you are such, or you are so much behind the Electoral Commission in this proposed CI it is seeking to lay, and what you think the Electoral Commission is seeking to do by laying before the House this CI?
Thank you. Good morning to the good people of Selorm constituency, and good morning to my nephew here.
It's your nephew. I didn't know that.
Yes,
the reverse is correct. You're not supposed to.
He's my nephew. In fact,
I have granted it to
him. It's not the case that MPP is bent in, or we in the majority, we are bent in supporting the Electoral Commission to use the Ghana card. But we think that as a country, we have gotten to a point that we need to make a decision. We have gotten to a stage that we need to be able to make a determination, either to have a very clean register, either to have a register that is solely people who are Ghanaians, 100% in that register, and a register that we will not have minors in the register, and a register whereby people will not take an advantage to become guarantor contractors, I will term it in this case. NIA have explained to us where they are at the moment. And in 2020 election, if you look at the data presented to Parliament, about 17 million Ghanaians were registered in 2020 to participate in both the parliamentary and presidential election. Election, and out of that 14 million, about 10 million use their Ghana card to get their voter register. So it means that other form of identification was somewhere around 4 million or so. Now NIA is telling us that they have the capacity, and if in anything they have already demonstrated that they have the capacity to be able to register everybody. Now the argument is just zeroed down into two forms, where the Electoral Commission is saying that we'll use only the Ghana card as a sole identity for purposes of electoral, getting the electoral register. And then our colleagues on the other side is saying that why not add the guarantor system? Now the argument, that day, I remember when we brought in the Electoral Commissioner, the NIA and the Ministry of Finance, I asked a specific question for purpose of clarity. And my question was that in the NIA system, we have a guarantor system in the NIA. And the Electoral Commission, our colleagues are advocating that that same guarantor system should be allowed. Now, there was much difference in terms of the guarantor system with Electoral Commission and then NIA. If you look at NIA, they have deposition of oath. And in the same CI 91, there is deposition of oath. But the difference is that in the NIA system, they have commissioners of oath who have been trained by the Chief Justice, by, let me just say, that the judiciary, for that matter. So if in the case of Electoral Commission per CI 91, if you want to do the deposition of oath, maybe I go somewhere and then you come, there's an argument, oh yeah, he's a Ghanaian, no, he's a Togolese, he's a Ghanaian. I said he's a Ghanaian. Then what the Electoral Commission will tell you that the registration officer will just fill this form, and then you fill the form. In the case of NIA, when you say this person is not a Ghanaian and there's an argument on that, it means that you have to go and appear before a commission of oaths, where they have in all their centers. I think they have about 1,300 commissioners of oaths. And then they will now administer the oath and swear you in, meaning if you are lying, you can be held liable for perjury and that sort. And then I also demonstrated to us that people between the age of 15 and above or to 18 are somewhere 2.5 million Ghanaians that are yet to be captured. And mind you, when you read the Constitution in Article 45E, that is where NIA is, Electoral Commission is performing their exercise to expand the register. We are not doing a new register, where we will say that we are starting the process on the 1st of April, and we are finishing on the 30th of April. The continual registration or expansion of their register, they will start it when they have the CI done, and they will do same until next year, 7th October 2024, for purposes of this election. So we have to now, as a country, ask ourselves that between now to the 7th of October, whether NIA will be able to register the 2.5 million Ghanaians. And the fact that whether the NIA, they said their main problem was finance. They have 3.5 million cards that are in the custom bonded warehouse. And that's 3.5 million cards, according to the presentation in Parliament, they have about 1,000 machines that can be able to register people. And in effect, it is telling us that he needs somewhere 3 months to 4 or 5 months, and he could be able to register these 2.5 million Ghanaians. And these 2.5 million Ghanaians are not people who are qualified to vote per Article 42 of the Constitution. They are people between the age of 15. It means that if you are even 15 now, you are not qualified to vote next year.
But it also includes people who are 40, 50, 60.
No, I'm talking about NIA.
Yes.
So out of the 2.5 million,
yes.
I just want to say that it is not the case that the 2.5 million that are yet to be registered are all qualified to vote or will be qualified to vote in 2024. That is not the case. Now, NIA have already demonstrated. Look at where we are coming from. President Kufuor launched the NIA in 2006. It came to Professor Mills, who also did his part. President Mahama, who also did his part. And Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. So are we now going to say that with the expenditure, with where we are coming from as a country, we don't need to have a national identification? And this is not the first time that Electoral Commission is modernizing their constitutional instrument or legislative instrument. This is not the first time. Before, if you look at CI 72, it has the birth cert, it has baptismal certificate, it has passports and other things. And the argument continues saying that the passport, we can use passports and other things. By the privilege given to me and my Honorable Sohyene here, legally we have 2 passports. Because as members of Parliament, we are entitled to a diplomatic passport. And we are also entitled to an ordinary passport, which have different numbers, passport numbers, assuming. But with the case of NIA, whether you are the President of the Republic or you are the Minister or anybody, you are not entitled to more than one NIA card.
You are entitled to the 2 passports because you are a Ghanaian. So that doesn't take away from your citizenship.
Do you know I'm not the only Habibi Idrisu? I know
but,
people.
But there are details.
What is the uniqueness of your passport?
Because there are other details in the passport which will narrow it down to you. For example, it's a biometric passport. And you are the only one with those biometrics.
Yes.
Your date of birth, I'm not sure the other Habibi Idrisu, wherever, will have the same date of birth as you, will have the same name of your mother, father, will have the same hometown, will have all these other descriptors being the same. So by virtue of the other descriptors, it will have been narrowed down to you, especially your biometrics.
But do you know that the biometrics is not migrated? In a sense that if I have an ordinary passport and I need a diplomatic passport, they will say that, okay,
there's your picture in there.
That's what I'm saying. So it will be the case that my biometric system is already with the passport authority. So they are just migrating it into giving me a diplomatic passport. That's not the case. You still go through the same biometric system. My argument here is that it has to do with the uniqueness of the identity of the person with regards to the NIA. You put your finger in there. Now I think they have modernized it. They take all your 10 fingers. You cannot attempt to even register more than once. People have passports. People have duplicate passports. We have seen the case that people are prosecuted because they have attempted, who are not Ghanaians, and they have attempted to register to have Ghana passport. In the case of NIA, yes, if you are a non-Ghanaian and you come, they will register you. But it will definitely be the case that you are not a Ghanaian. So what Electoral Commission seek to do, of which we in the majority we are supporting, is that they intend giving us a very clean and credible register. They are going to give us a register that will not have minors in the register. They are going to give us a register that will not have foreigners in the register. They are going to give us a register where Ghanaians, by virtue of the provisions in the Constitution, will choose their members of Parliament, and at the same time will choose their president. The argument from our colleagues, I don't think, unless there is any other motive behind it, that Electoral Commission should not use only Ghana card, but should also include the guarantor system. They are particular about the guarantor system. And that is the worry for everybody to look at it, because you are not telling us that, oh, they should bring the birth cert back. You are not telling us that they should bring the baptismal certificate back. You are rather emphasizing on the fact that they should bring the guarantor system back, which has been very problematic to us as a country. In NIA system, those who attempted to even register twice that were rejected were somewhere 94,000. 94,000 people attempted to register twice. But for the fact that they just it came to a point that we said we should put the picture, any reform in the Electoral Commission. They said no. Even recently, when they were talking about, oh, let's do biometric registrations and other things, it was something that they never accepted. The point is that if you go to Togo, you go to Burkina Faso, Benin and other things, they all have national IDs. And that national IDs are helping them. So why can't we, as a country, even if not for the purpose of the Electoral Commission purposes, have a national ID? But we now want to say that, okay, we should bring in the guarantor system. So at the end of the day, me looking at the whole thing, unless, you know, my honorable colleague here is, they know something that we don't know, that the guarantor system will be more effective than us having a national ID where the Electoral Commission can be able to account for everything we do. And you see, when someone wants to manage your election, and I'm giving you and be able to give you a credible result, why do you want to deny that person that right? So at the end of the day, and this is a constitutional body, and at the end of the day, after 2024 election, then the Electoral Commission, if there's a problem, oh, but I told you you should give me the Ghana card to do the election, and you didn't. We should not give the Electoral Commission any reason to complain in 2024. 2024 election, mind you, is a critical election.
Every election has been critical.
No, but you see, the country have been a point where after 8 years, there's a change of government, of which it will not happen in 2024, because we are ready and we are breaking it. Oh, we are breaking it already.
Oh, you're breaking it already.
Oh, yes. So, by virtue of that, it's very critical. So, we should be able to allow the Electoral Commission and allow them to do and give us a very credible register, a register that would be widely accepted. Because at the end of the day, if out of the 21 million Ghanaians who are between the age of 15 and above to be registered, NIA has been able to register over 17 million already. What is left? 2.5. And mind you, that NIA can only register people who avail themselves to be registered.
That's fine. So let me interrogate you a bit on this. So I'm not sure in principle anybody has a problem with the Electoral Commission using the Ghana cards. I think the point of departure really has been that for those who have the Ghana cards, let them use it. Those who have not been able to acquire the Ghana cards without any fault of theirs, in order that they are not disenfranchised, let's use the existing system, which has not given us any problem. In fact, the NIA's own LI 2111, Regulation 7 of that, says that the national identity card issued to an individual shall be used for the following transactions where identification is required, and it lists a number of things: issuance of passport, driver's license, and J, registration of voters. So the key word there is issued to an individual. So here's a case. In fact, in real life, I have a friend who has been trying to get an NIA card for the last 2 years. He's wanted it, he's tried, but he hasn't received it. So if this CI is passed, and then you restrict the registration, the identification documents to only NIA card, what happens to that person? Must he then live in the hope that NIA will someday register him before the elections? That is the thing. Or we will say, okay, now we've given NIA some money. Let register, or it's on your system, then we can do this. Is that not a more feasible approach? Is that not safer than saying that we are going this way with the hope that NIA will finish? NIA has been telling us this since last year, that they can use 6 months to finish 2.5 million or 3.5 million people. Here we are, they are still telling us the same thing. Now, finance minister, in the middle of an economic crisis, is telling us that he has found 100 million for them. We don't know where he found it, but they owe 1.5 billion, $117 million, which translates to 1.5 billion cedis. That's how much they owe. You pay 100 million, they will do it to a certain point. The people will say, you are still owing us. We are locking up the warehouse. But we would have passed the law. Where will it place us? That is the difficulty the people are raising. That is just the difficulty. Nobody's against the Ghana card.
So when you look at why we had the committee on the hold, and for purposes of this, many a time when we have committee of the hold, we don't telecast it in Parliament. But this was a committee of Parliament that we said that Ghanaians should also be able to follow up. There was a reason for that. The reason was that, one, whether NIA can still be able to complete these people, the registration of these 2.5 million Ghanaians in time, whether they have the capacity, and what are their challenges. And mainly, I don't know the figure of 117 million being owed by NIA as a problem.
Just NIA's only issue.
The main problem was that NIA have some 3.5 million cards in a custom border warehouse. Now they were owing CAR, which was actually, facilitating this, and they needed to pay. The finance minister release is not that the money is coming to pay every debt of NIA, but for NIA, for the purposes of this exercise, for the 3.5 million cards to be released. That money has been paid. NIA have confirmed that CAR have informed them that the money has been paid. For the purpose of your friend, they were not getting the cards for that long time you have actually said, because there was no cards available. If the cards are available, NIA have already demonstrated. In fact, in Electoral Commission itself, look at when Electoral Commission was going to do the new register. In a day, they could do close to 800,000 people in a day. NIA have also said that with the 1,000 machines that we have, if we are even going to do people like 50 per station, they should be able to do 500,000 going. And even in the certain sense, my worry that I want to suggest to the NIA is some 642 cars already printed by 1,000 cars, 642,000 cars. Why not? Because for the purposes of the lifestyle of some people, somebody like me, if I have a card at NIA district office and you are expecting me to go there and pick it up, it might be difficult. But it wouldn't be out of purpose if NIA is saying that we have actually engaged a delivery agency to identify these people and deliver it at a fee. Where I will be sitting in my office or in Parliament, okay, your NIA card is here, this is it. You have to pay 10, 20, 50 Ghana cedis to take your card for the delivery purpose. Because majority of the 642,000 that have not been delivered, some of them have a busy lifestyle and might not even be able to go and get it. Some people even forget about it because they are so busy. So my argument here, based on your question, is that NIA have the cards now. They have demonstrated they are capable because they have registered 17 million Ghanaians from, if you look at from 2017, they had registered only 4 million Ghanaians. So from that time to now, they have been able to register some 30 million more who are qualified to vote. Meanwhile, it's not the case that the non-foreigners are part of this. No, their number 2 is different. But those who can be able to migrate into the register. So it should not be a difficulty at all. I can assure you that government is committed to that.
My only concern is we are going to make a law based on hope. We don't even know what the future holds. There's no certainty. Something could happen, and NIA will give us an excuse. And there are other external factors. There's network. There are other things. There are some villages, for example, that things may not even go well. So why don't you wait? It's always been the question. Why don't we get to a point where we can say that almost everybody or everybody who is willing to get onto the NIA system is on the system? Okay, that is the point. But
to just conclude on that, you see, look at the time we were using the passport. Do you know the number of Ghanaians who had passport by then? You see.
No, but the passport, asking for voting, it was not the only part.
So what I'm trying to say is that where we are, you look at the number of those who have the NIA card vis-a-vis those who doesn't have it. At the end of the day, the argument of
it's not worth it if even one person, it's a constitutional right, if even one person is willing to get onto the electoral roll and is unable to get onto it because without any fault of his, he could not get the Ghana card.
So what about those who turn 18 in November 2024? And
yes.
What about those? Yes. So definitely they can't vote. Even
but the law makes you have to be registered.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Yes. That in all these instances, even those who have the cards, not everybody votes. But voting is a constitutional right, isn't it?
It is.
So if last election they were able to register 17 million Ghanaians and only 14 turned up to vote, the rest of the 3 million Ghanaians, don't they have the right to vote?
No,
they turn up to
it's
vote.
A right. They choose to exercise it or not.
It's a constitutional right.
They choose to exercise it or not.
It's a constitutional right. But my argument here is that even when NIA and it exercise in terms of voting 2 months to the general election, people will still turn 18. It's all fault of theirs per Article 42. They are qualified, but they cannot provisions of the law. But now the question is that I am very convinced beyond reason
that NIA will deliver.
NIA will deliver. They have done it before and they can be able to do it.
Very well. Let me come to your nephew or your uncle. I don't know which is correct. Honorable Suhini. So, he's saying that the NDC has had a history of opposing electoral reforms, right from the opaque ballot boxes to picture ID cards, biometric, and now the EC wants to use Ghana card solely, and you are still opposing it. We cannot take you seriously because it's been your stock in trade. That's what he's trying to say.
Well, Selorm, a quick response to that will just be that in the history of the Fourth Republic, the NDC has championed almost all the electoral reforms. Opaque ballot boxes to transparent ballot boxes is the NDC that introduced it. All the things he talks about, all the reforms, even voter ID without picture and with picture, color picture, they came under President Kufuor and took it back to black and white and all kinds of things. It took the NDC again to bring about the biometric system. So all the reforms that have enhanced our electoral processes, the NDC is proud to have introduced them and supported the Electoral Commission to introduce them, I should say. But let me say good morning to you, my
your nephew?
He wants to be old, so I'll call him an uncle because he wants to be old. I don't want to be old, so he can take the title, even though he knows what the truth is. And they're very good people of the Tamale North constituency, and generally to our viewers, good morning. Selorm, before I even look at the issues, there are 2 issues that have been on my heart all week. And with your permission, I just want to make a comment or 2 on those 2 issues. One has to do with the measles outbreak in Northern Region. Health authorities are having a difficult time dealing with the cases. Apart from the lack of capacity to even have tests done in good time so they know what they are dealing with, they also don't have the vaccines that are required to stem the outbreak, and that is quite disturbing. And they are not the only people worried. In fact, school authorities are also beginning to be worried because the age brackets, children, you are not even able to tell when your child has a common cold. And so school authorities are worried. And I think that the earlier the government does something about it, the better. And it is not comforting at all when we hear that we have a general vaccine shortage in the country. I this week made a statement on it on the floor of Parliament. I am assured that on Tuesday, the Minister of Health will be in Parliament to tell us what they
have. But you heard the minister
installed.
Before you. Was it this week, last week?
Well, he didn't appear. He didn't turn up.
Give any reason why?
I am not sure of what the reasons were, but what I do know is that he's been programmed to come on Tuesday, and I'm hoping that he will give us something that we can all hold on to, because we need to know our stakeholders, parents, members of parliament, school authorities, health practitioners, what our role should be in this outbreak, because this is a disease we should have eradicated in 2020. And for us not to be talking of isolated cases, but an outbreak is quite worrisome. The second issue, Selorm, is the announcement of the Hajj, authority of the fare that Ghanaian pilgrims are supposed to pay this year to undertake Hajj. Selorm, yes. I have worked at the Hajj Authority as, its communication director before, and I am terribly disappointed at the fare that has been announced. It is simply unacceptable. And it is not only the highest in the sub-region so far, but Selorm, how? About 750 million old cedis. That's close to 1 billion in this economy for people who are mandated by faith. Some people think it's luxury. It's not. It is part of the 5 pillars of Islam. They are mandated by their faith to undertake this religious journey. And when the NDC was leaving office, when I was the communications director at the Hajj Authority, Selorm, for 4 years, the fare was maintained at $3,450 with a negotiated exchange rate. So it never went above 12,000 Ghana cedis. The highest people paid for Hajj was 12,000 Ghana cedis. Since, and permit me, Selorm, it is the vice president who said it. Since we got him elected as our representative, because that was his campaign, that he was going to represent Muslims at the Flagstaff House, we have had astronomical increases from $3,450. Today, you are talking about $6,000, translating to 75,000 Ghana cedis. And the promise is even that it may increase after end of March.
But in this matter,
it is terribly unacceptable, and authorities must sit down and look at the fare again.
In this matter, what can be done? Government to subsidize, or because private people or agents come up, and I'm sure this is a negotiated sum, which should be around $5,000.
Selorm,
what can government do?
It's about $6,000. We are told it's $6,000, and I'm telling you that it is the highest so far in the sub-region. So are they going to a different Mecca? Yeah, so from Nigeria going to a different Mecca? Is Togo going to a different
economic
Mecca?
realities may be different. So from your experience, what can government
do? And our economic situation is worse. That is even the more reason why our rates should be looked at. And sometimes it is just based on how the people at the Pilgrimage Affairs Office negotiate with the service providers. It is about how they and sometimes it is also, I must say, the desire to make profit out of these things. It is unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. I mean, these are.
Oh, you are member of the board, right? I'll give you time to. I'll give you time to respond. I'll take a short.
It is. The fare is simply. Make the attempt to rationalize it. Let us speak to whoever matter in this situation to ensure that the fare is reduced.
Very well. I'll take a quick break. I'll return. No. I'll give you the time. No, I'll give you the time. I'll take a quick break. Return. I'll take a quick response from Habib on this Hajj matter, which Honorable Suni is raised. Honorable Suni will have his full time to deal with the CI matter. This is a big issue on 97.3 City FM. We'll be right back.
My name is Gina, and this salon is where I work.
Good morning. Hey, morning. You've already met your new colleague, have you?
Who was this Kujubisi? He fell from the sky.
I'm so glad there's a man amongst you. You ladies gossip too much. Hey, girls.
Today, Alam came in with a hot, sexy guy. And they were doing lobby.
Hey. Did Madam think men don't gossip?
The grapevine lands on my lap.
I've noticed a massive decline in our daily proceeds.
I suggest we fast and pray.
The spirit, told me today that I'll see a man in this family.
He said his wife is dead?
Yes, she was sick.
Hey, what sickness?
Aite, it is your mother that will get leukemia. It is your mother. I don't like what you are doing at all. Yes, you want to fight?
Showing every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. with repeats on Friday at 10 p.m., Saturday at 6 p.m., and Sunday at 12:30 p.m. The Hairdressers is sponsored by Ebony Condoms.
Welcome back to the big issue. We are live from our studios here at 5 Owula Hansen Link at Tesano and also on 97.3 City FM. We are also on Facebook and City Tube. The discussion today is on the proposed constitutional instrument the Electoral Commission is seeking to get Parliament to pass. And the question is whether the Ghana card should be the sole document for registering to get onto Electoral Commission's register to vote for election 2024. The other matter we are dealing with, or we'll deal with, is John Mahama's 2024 bid. We're trying to assess some of the promises he made. He made quite some interesting promises. 60 ministers to run the country, and the scrapping of ex-gratia for the executive. Interesting, and that will have to come with a constitutional amendment. Constitutional amendment we've been trying to do since 2015 or 2013 or so. But that's what he said. We'll look at how feasible those things are. But in the meantime, we've been discussing the CI, and my guest, the Honorable Habib Idrisu, who is the Deputy Majority Whip in the House of Parliament and MP for Tolon. He just finished his submission. Honorable Alasan Suyini, MP for Tamale North, was just about beginning. But he made some two preliminary points before getting into the matter of the CI. One, he talked about the measles. The fact that the minister will be in Parliament on Tuesday to tell them what they should expect. So that's one. Number two, he raised the issue about the Hajj fares. 75,000 Ghana cedis for the Hajj pilgrims, or will be pilgrims to pay before they embark on that religious mandatory exercise. And in his view, it is quite on the high side. He makes the point with the background that he served on the Hajj board as head of communications, and for him, it's the highest he's seen, and indeed, he says it's the highest in the sub-region. Fortunately, Honorable Habib here is also a member of the Hajj board now, and it is his team that is been dealing with the difficulties now and have come up with $75,000, which he's saying
Ghana
is
cedis,
75,000 Ghana cedis,
$6,500,
which he's saying is the best they can come up with. So I will give him the opportunity to respond to this quickly. Then I go back to the Honorable Suhini to take his time on the matter of the CI. So, Honorable, of course, we have Franklin Kujo and Dr. Sribo Kwako of the EC as our other guests on the program. Honorable Habib, a quick one on the Hajj matter.
Yes, I was very surprised when my honorable colleague brought the issue of the Hajj. Yes, I'm a member of the Hajj board. A lot of thinking went into this year Hajj before arriving at this decision. Mind you, the argument that this is the highest in the sub-region is not true. In Benin, they are paying 89,000 Ghana cedi equivalent. In Nigeria, they are paying 76,000 Ghana cedi equivalent. And if you look at the 6,500 84,000 Ghana cedi. That is what it is. Because the exchange rate now it's around 12.8 to 13. And if you do the conversion, you'll be able to appreciate that. But I can also tell you, I have been to Hajj. Ghana pilgrims are the best treated among all pilgrims in Africa. I was in Hajj in 2018. Look, from the time you are at this Hajj village, the process starts, to the time that you are returning. If you go there, you'll be marveled about the work that is being done. So a lot of factors go into this. Last year, the Hajj was pegged at $5,800. Government came in and subsidized some $800 out of it, and left with 5,000. At the moment, where we are battling with getting a deal from IMF, where we have the DDEP, and then Muslims is a right for us to go and perform Hajj. It's part of the pillars of Islam. And some of the pillars of Islam, maybe I need to give my nephew a bit of religious education so that he'll be able to understand. Some of them are conditionally compulsory. And Hajj is part of the conditional compulsory. They don't say that you should perform Hajj by hook or crook. They said you should perform Hajj if you can afford it.
Okay.
That is a conditional thing. Just like fasting. You should fast. But if you think health-wise, you cannot, then other things need for you
so
to
in
be done.
essence, if you cannot afford the 75,000,
that is the case. But it is not the case, because if you have 75,000 Ghana cedi, you convert it into dollars, it's $5,800. If you convert 75,000 Ghana cedi to dollars, it becomes $5,800 per the rates. But government have been able to that is what your religion is telling you. Is that it? That is what your religion is telling you. No, he has told you show to
no, that's what it means. He's saying that if you can't pay, you should forget it.
He's playing the politics of it.
You should forget it if you can't pay.
He's playing the politics of it.
It's not politics.
You see, and he doesn't actually appreciate the exchange rate differential. Yes, granted that even when you said when NDC was leaving, the Hajj was 7,200 Ghana cedi, or how much was that? Well,
9,400.
It was 9,000. There was about 9,000.
9,000 Ghana cedi. Even if you are talking about that money as we sit, it is 45,000 Ghana cedi, the $3,400.
No, but that's like half of 75,000.
No, it's not like half. 75, half of 75,000 Ghana cedi.
It's about half.
32 point something. So 44 is more than that price. So we cannot actually argue that. What I want my honorable colleague to understand is that yes, we are all Muslims.
Anyway,
and the burden will come to us because we as members of parliament.
I saw you say. How will you help anybody?
So at the end of the day, we shouldn't be able to try to politicize the whole thing.
But is there
is
there anything that can be done about the 75,000?
No, government have done something about it. That is why it is 75,000, because 75,000 is not $6,500.
So it won't go down.
6,000, yes, $6,500. It's 84,000. That's why government have come in to make it 75,000. And I am telling
till end of March,
who will be going this year that the Hajj board have considered other factors. Look. From the time you are Hajj village here, you are catered for. They give them food.
But it's always been
when they get there. I'm saying that when he said, see, sometimes you cannot do comparison. Sometimes Ghanaian pilgrims give Nigerian pilgrims food in Mecca. I've been a witness to that.
Very well. I think this will continue.
Sometimes we want
Selorm, it is not clearly, it is not a matter on his heart, so I don't even see why you wanted him to comment on it. It's a matter on my heart that I just wanted to share. It's not a matter on his heart. And I'm scandalized that he will say that, I mean, people who cannot afford to pay should forget it because they are not compelled.
All right, so let's get back on track.
The fact.
So this is the big issue on 97.3 City FM. Your microphone is up on 97.3 City FM. We are looking at the matter of the CI and John Mahama's promise, but there was an issue of the Hajj pilgrims matter that came up, and we just need to take a quick response. So, Honorable, let's get back on track.
This is the first time I'm making commentary on the activities of the Hajj board.
No, I think a point about the fair being Hajj.
So it is not politics. If I wanted to play politics, I would not have stopped commenting because there are a number of issues there I could have played politics with. This is not
this is fair. So let's get back to the
Togo. He said Togo is paying 3,090,000 CFA.
I didn't mention Togo.
Nigeria is paying $3,000. $3,000.
No, it's not the case. Nigeria is
so we'll
anyway,
independently verify.
But
let's go ahead.
Anyway, so it is something that my appeal.
I think we will take it up and also do that.
Now, yes. Selorm, you see,
so
on the CI,
yes.
My brother Habib, at some point when you asked him if they have broken the 8 already, said, I mean, if they intend to break the 8, he said they have broken it.
It's a matter of faith, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. They have broken it already. After all, fuel prices that was sold at about 4 Ghana cedis per liter is now 16 Ghana cedis. They have broken the 8. I mean, the dollar that was exchanging for about 4 cedis is now about 13 cedis, above the 8. They have broken it. You know, unemployment, that was around 5.5%. It's about 13.5% today. They have broken the 8 already. So he's right. I mean, they have broken the 8. But you see, the CI like you properly contextualize it, is a constitutional mandate that they have to carry out. And when you were reading the relevant portion of the Constitution, I took note of 2 phrases. Right to vote. Right of a citizen to vote. It is a right. It's non-negotiable. If you are a citizen of Ghana, it is your right to vote. And the Electoral Commission is to ensure that you are not limited in any way to carry out that right. The second phrase was entitled to be registered. It is your right to be vote. I mean, it's your right to vote, and you are entitled to be registered as a citizen. So the Electoral Commission, in whatever it does, must make sure that every limitation that will make it impossible for you to enjoy that entitlement is removed. The Electoral Commission must make sure of that. So it is not about who wins or who loses an election. It's about the Constitution and the person's right to vote and his entitlement to be registered. And the responsibility of the Electoral Commission to ensure that every limitation to these rights and entitlement are removed. So when you have the Electoral Commission hinging its discharge of its responsibility on the efficiency or otherwise of another body, say the NIA, that in my view should amount to shirking of responsibility. The NIA is not by law mandated to register anybody to vote. So the NIA's timetable should not be hinged willy-nilly, on the Electoral Commission's timetable. There are 2 separate state institutions with different responsibilities to the citizens. So the NIA's mandate is to register us as citizens and to register other, nationals who are in this country, so that at least we have a data set of citizens and people living in this country. That is their mandate. Yes, when they carry out their mandate so well, it can impact on the work of the Electoral Commission. But when the Electoral Commission, in my view, shirks its responsibility of first continuing registration, which since 2021 they have not done, and sits aloof, waiting for the NIA to carry out its mandate, it amounts to shirking of responsibility. Because they should have continued, the registration exercise even after the 2020 elections. We have district assembly elections around the corner. Since 2021, they have not carried out any limited registration exercise. Why? Because perhaps they are waiting for the NIA. Why should that be the case? Why should that be the case? Why should the efficiency of the NIA be determined by the timetable of the Electoral Commission. So now the Electoral Commission wants to use the NIA cards to do voter registration. The finance minister is able to find money for the NIA to discharge its duties, its responsibilities. And Selorm, this is where it is suspicious and funny at the same time. The work of the NIA, you do know, has the potential to impact government's revenue, right? Business. GRA and others require the Ghana card when you are opening a business or paying your taxes and all of that. Selorm, all of these opportunities that the NIA gives the revenue collector, the finance minister, did not motivate him to release money to NIA to discharge its duties effectively and efficiently. Only when the Electoral Commission wants the data that the government revenue collector now finds money for the NIA. Isn't that suspicious and funny? Which would the government revenue collector have prioritized? So he has starved the NIA all these years. Yes, he has starved the NIA all these years. Even though he knows that the effective, discharge of the NIA's duties could have impacted on revenue mobilization. He simply did not bother to release funds for the NIA. But when it is about elections,
but Honorable,
all of a sudden,
what's the concern?
He finds money.
What's the concern really? The EC says it wants a clean register, a register devoid of foreigners and minors.
Right.
And it says that the NIA's card or the Ghana card is the surest way to achieve that. Shouldn't we be actually happy that they found a way of getting to, quote unquote, a perfect destination?
I mean, that should be something that we should all embrace. They want a clean register. First of all, they have not demonstrated to us that the register they have currently is unclean.
So there are some foreigners on it. They strike out
Every register will always have foreigners on it. Every voter register. Sometimes you have to look at the impact. The impact, how significant is the error? The margin of error, how significant is it? The NIA, the Electoral Commission, has not convinced us of how many, foreigners are on the register, for which reason we need to change the process of compiling or registering people. They haven't convinced us. And the Americans will say, if it ain't broken, you don't fix it. And they themselves have told us that this register they currently have is one of the cleanest. The process that they use is almost similar to the process that the NIA is using. To get an NIA
says that the NIA's guarantor system is more robust and better than.
And that's where I'm coming to. Listen, the NDC is not fussy about using the guarantor system. We are simply saying that make alternatives available to the citizen who has a right to vote and who is entitled to be registered. The limitation we all know, and you gave a perfect example, is that many people are not finding it easy to get the Ghana card. It is a limitation that is known to everybody. Some people have gone to register, they haven't been issued with cards. Others have been issued with cards with, misspelling of their names or wrong dates of birth. They can't get it changed. Others go to the center, their data they are not able to capture their data. They go there repeatedly. And so we are saying, because of that limitation, don't make it the only requirement for a citizen who has a right to vote and is entitled to be registered. Don't make it the only requirement. Introduce other requirements like the NIA itself is using. the NIA itself is not using only one, way to identify citizens. They are using the birth set, they are using the guarantor system, and other, forms of ID. They are using that. So why will you say that the primary documents that the NIA is using to compile the card, to prepare the card, is not adequate for your purpose? It's just illogical. So the NIA uses a source document to prepare a card that you have confidence in, but you don't have confidence in that source document that is used to prepare the card. How logical is that? How is it difficult for you to say that because not every citizen has the card yet, the NIA card yet, we will introduce some of the source documents that the NIA is also using to produce a card? How difficult is that? So that gradually, when we get to a point in this country where there is no limitation when it comes to acquiring a Ghana card, then you can make the Ghana card the only, requirement. But where we are now, the limitation is known to everybody. And so it is illogical to ignore the limitation and just insist that it should be the only requirement. And that is where we have a problem with the Electoral Commission, because it makes us think that then if you are not willing to accept the rational perhaps you are up to something.
But the comfort is that the finance minister has since released money, and the NIA has assured us that
the NIA requires over $100 million. $100 million. And
he says
the finance minister has released less than 100 million Ghana cedis.
But he's explained that the $100 million, the 100 million cedis is almost 100 million cedis released, will unlock the cards in the custom bonded warehouse. The cards are what they need to finish this. So with that assurance and what the NIA is telling us, they can finish this in 3 to 6 months.
So right now, that's why I was telling you that the performance of the responsibility and the duty of the Electoral Commission should not be, hinged on the efficiency of the NIA, because there are two bodies with separate responsibilities to us citizens. So why can't the Electoral Commission go ahead? Because they need to go ahead to register people. Already they are supposed to do continuous registration. They are supposed to do limited registration because the District Assembly elections is around the corner. Why can't they go ahead and use the existing CI to do their registration and wait until we have enough cards in the system? If they want to about this country, the projections do not always match the performance. You can project that, when the cards come out, I'll do A, B, C, D. The cards comes out and you are not able to do it within that time. Then what will the EC do? So I'm saying that let the EC carry out its responsibility and wait till the point that the NIA don't stampede the NIA to do their duty, because the NIA has a duty to register citizens and non-citizens. Don't stampede them with your timetable.
But they say they can do it.
Let them do it. And when they finish with their work, like today, the National Health Insurance Authority is using the data of the NIA. Because why?
It's available.
It's available. And they think that it works well for them. Let the EC also wait for the NIA to get to a point without stampeding them where they can use their data.
Very well.
And we will all support that. But we are saying in the meantime, it seems to us that there is something that the Electoral Commission is stepping on, or it knows that we don't know. Because it is illogical. It is not rational. And apart from this, Selorm, the second reason we are opposed to this CI is the limitation of registration to district, centers. Sometimes some of these policies, when you hear them or you see them, you are tempted to think that we have too many people, perhaps, in decision making who do not appreciate the geography of the country.
But so that's a continuous registration. We can't have continuous registration happening in all polling stations at the same time around the year.
It has never happened, and that's not what we are saying. Yes. But we are saying that when you are doing limited registration exercise, don't limit it to the district center. When you are doing continuous registration exercise, don't say by law that it has to take place at the district office. There may be the opportunity sometimes to decentralize these things, because you see, some district capitals Sometimes it takes some communities and towns 2 days to get to their district capital. 2 days to get to their district. It's telling you the right to vote and the entitlement to be registered, and the need for the Electoral Commission to at all times remove limitations that will make it difficult for people to
registration to district offices is a limitation.
It's a limitation, and that we want addressed in this law. We don't think so it will serve
how should
the citizens.
Be that there should be continuous registration, but where should it occur?
Sometimes they do limited opening of polling stations. They do the limited opening of polling stations. You can even, depending on the geography of the district, you can open centers that are close to towns.
So there should be no.
You don't have to open all polling stations. That's not what we are saying.
So the continuous registration you are saying should not happen in the district.
Should not be limited to the district office.
Because they can be doing it in the district offices.
Yes, they can do it in the district office, but they should add other centers. That will make it easy for people who live far away from the district office to also access the registration process.
Very well. So let me come to you, Franklin. I mean, interesting discussion so far. The EC is saying they want a clean register. A number of people they found out the last time were foreigners, which they have since struck off from the register. Now they want to go by what the NIA is doing, in fact, backed by law, but that if you are issued with a card, you use that card for registration. The other point is not everybody has the card. The NIA, Ken Atifa, professor, has told us that they are sure of completing the cycle in 3 to 6 months. That's quite good. Sounds ambitious, sounds positive. What should be the approach? Should we go ahead and allow the CI to pass, or we should wait? What should we do? Honorable Suini is saying that the EC should not hinge its performance on the success or otherwise of another independent body. Where do you stand?
How to do it for identity of a people, and in this case, maybe for the purposes of exercising a right to vote, having more or less held in hallowed conversations. It makes it look as if it's the being and all that we have to be living for, really. When we go into questioning motives, then you probably might also try to find out why the cost seems to be rising up and upwards when other countries that have far more population, I'm talking about India, with over 1.2 billion people, had done a similar project for just about $1.1 billion thereabouts. But ours seems just to be increasing for some strange reason. Our cards are so efficient that the costs seem to be quite escalating. But anyway, you see, let's not allow something I've come to understand called legal plunder to be used in order to perpetuate the oppression of people who have the right to exercise a mandate, as basic as the right to vote. When the law is being used in a manner that tries to suppress and indeed inhibit the basic function of exercising the right to vote, I term that as legal plunder. So see if the law is used in such a manner, in a rational manner, to achieve a certain outcome that could have actually been achieved without necessarily going through this process. Suini asked a very important question, and in fact, my good friend Habib has been doing quite a lot of work in this regard. And I'm sorry, Habib, but this one I'm not in your camp. I think Suini has a very important question, which is, look, card is supposed to be the singular most important item to be using, or the only valid identity to be used in registering to vote. Why wait all this time? Why spend all these number of months and probably years just sitting idle? And by here I don't just mean the NIA. NIA would say they were ready for it, but the state, as in the funder, was probably not. And Suini follows up with another question. If it has been advertised that the NIA card should be, everyone must register for it because it has other services that you can only access other services only when you have a card. then it must have been the state's interest to ensure that the cards were given at such record time, delivered at such record time and rates that we wouldn't even be here having this conversation. So a part of me feels that, look, we sort of invented this, we created this design, what I call chaos, in order to make it look like, hey, elections are coming, oh, some people don't have cards, so let's hurry up. I mean, for crying out loud, is a card the only, is the ID card the only thing that should matter when it comes to identifying the rights of humans, as in people in the country? And even if it were the case, why have we waited and then tried to create a storm and then make it look like, well, if some people do not support the idea, then they do not believe in democracy, or they do not believe in elections. In the same way, the NDC would argue that, well, the MPP is pushing this agenda and saying, and asking NPP, asking NDC, what is it that you're afraid of? Then it becomes so murky, and the whole thing is reduced to some motive questioning here and there. The fundamental question really is, do we really need this? Is the ID card the only sanctimonious document that can guarantee a successful outcome in an election? I mean, by the previous elections, we all knew that there were all kinds of challenges, as in changing the biometric systems and all of that stuff. We were told that the whole thing was sacrosanct, and it delivered superbly. But 3.5 million people must have voted without using the national ID card. And the elections were said to have passed muster, irrespective of the fact that the EC kept announcing different figures at each point in time, which in fact must have been the only good reason why some of the questions around the election should have been granted. No, nobody seems to be talking about that. The administrative inefficiency or thereof, right? That's not what we are interested in. We are interested in this paltry number that would have to be able to vote even if they do not receive cards in record time. So for me, I don't even come back to question the whole point around assessing the question. Really, why? But I share the thoughts, and I know you, Selorm, you're a lawyer, and I know very well that I made those comments obviously in the full with the full understanding that the EC has a constitutional mandate to organize elections. But have we spared the thought to think that, look, that is the only bona fide identity to get you onto the voter roll? Then I ask myself, then do we really need the EC to organize elections? Exactly. Because the ID card has biometric features far more superior than this. The ID card has a system, the process of getting onto the ID card, that's what the EC says, by the way, even though I don't agree, has far more robust systems, as in guarantor systems, to get onto the card than they would ever dream of. Then let's save costs. Let's save close to 2 billion Ghana cedis that we are likely to spend on the coming elections. Let's save costs. Let's ask the EC. Maybe the EC officials can become VAR officials and have the NIA only deliver the elections. Use the biometric machines all over the country. Use their own officers. And if there's any shortage of officers, we invite the EC. You cannot say that this is done quixotic, because clearly I'm talking constitutional nonsense.
Not really. Not really.
It's constitutional nonsense, but it is logical.
Obviously, that's not where we are going. That's not what it is. But that's interesting. Let me put some questions to Habib as well. I know he's been making notes. Habib, interesting points made so far. I don't know what the EC has been telling you, apart from what they've been telling everybody. But now that we are where we are, it appears that this will be pushed through What are the timelines? What are the processes left to get this properly laid before the House?
Yeah, just before I come to that, if you listen to my colleague here and you listen to his argument that they are not necessarily pushing for guarantor system, but when he finished all his submission, he zeroed down to one thing, because he has said something very significant, that why should the Electoral Commission be relying on another constitutional body, that's the NIA, to be able to function? So it means that any other thing that you will have to use, or Electoral Commission will have to use, except the guarantor system, it's also manned by the constitutional body. If it is passport, if it is if it is birth set, if it's anything, if the birth, if we say assuming birth set, and then the registrar for birth and death said that they don't have enough papers or anything to be able to register people to have the birth set to register at the Electoral Commission. What about passport? If the passport office said they don't have enough booklets to be able to register. So at the end of the day, his argument zeroed down to one thing. That doesn't, no, your argument zeroed down to one thing. That doesn't need a constitutional body to function, and that is the guarantor system. Look, his argument, Mr. Franklin, you know, I don't think it's constitutionally flawed, and logically it doesn't actually make sense. Electoral Commission has existed for so many years, not today. It's just not that we just created the NIA for purposes of doing their job. But you see, if you look at what the NIA seek to do, or what Electoral Commission seek to do, it is not an exercise that we are going to do for one day. I have said it, and I'll continue to say it. They have 1 year. I think we are in March now. So they have about 1 year, 6 months to do the continuous registration, to continue to register people. So it means that those who are going to have those cards, and for purposes of election purposes, NIA is not issuing cards to 2.5 million Ghanaians who are qualified to register and vote in 2024 election. They are only giving 1.4. 1.4 will be qualified out of the 2.5, will be qualified from now till next year, who can then be enrolled into the registrar system. Look, NIA job is different. Government is committed, and I'm happy you've been able to draw his attention. Government is not looking for about 117 million to be able to get NIA to do the job before Electoral Commission function. We needed 100 million. It has been given. The cards have been unlocked. It will be given to NIA. NIA will start their job very easy. The point is that I don't know why we always want to be pushing this, pulling this country backwards when we want to make progress. We have come a very long way. Let's move ahead as a country. Let us be able to make decisions that will give us a very credible election. Let's make decisions. My colleagues made a point that there's no register without foreigners being in it. I'm very surprised at that statement. If you are a Ghanaian and you are not a British citizen, you cannot be in the UK voter register system. If you are a Ghanaian and you are not a citizen in US or anywhere, you cannot be registered in there. If you are a Ghanaian, you migrate there and you have taken a citizenship of that country. That is what they enroll you in.
Foreign in this case.
You see, and you can, and you see.
I didn't mean foreigners. I mean, maybe it didn't come out well.
Okay.
But the foreign was in reference to what shouldn't be in the register.
But the register is made up of human beings. So if they are foreign, that should be human beings, foreign human beings.
No, but the point is that what I'm saying, somebody who is not qualified to be on a register somehow may always find themselves to be on the register. Okay. And that is the history.
And that's what I keep saying. The only way, based on your assertion, for us to be able to cure that is to make sure that we use the Ghana card. Clearly, we will not get our minors into the register. Clearly, we will not get foreigners. If you go to other places, even including Nima and other places, those people who come from Niger to do something, they might stay here, maybe selling their things for 4 or 5 years. And because of that, they are staying in that house. We are doing our register. The person will come and say that, oh, I'm coming to do register. I'll register because they are selling Zalabia and other things. They're from Niger. They've been staying in Ghana in someone's house for 5 years, 6 years, even in certain cases, 10 years. And they are not Ghanaian. So during registration time, so the landlord of the house should come and say that this person is a Ghanaian because he has lived in my house for 10 years, and we let that person to make a decision as to who should represent
coming from
as to who, yes, as to who should be the president of the.
What an example!
This is
no wonder Zongo people are targeted when this registration exercise is on.
If there is a government that cares about Zongo, it's the MPP
is that the example you could
that have been able to create a authority
selling Zalabia and living in your house.
I'm referring to
from you.
No wonder. I'm referring for people from Niger.
No wonder they are harassing our brothers and sisters all the time during the registration
approach. What's the next approach?
The best approach,
because we don't have everybody having the NIA card. But will you admit, substantive question, will you admit that if the NIA, if the Electoral Commission depends on the NIA this much, and the NIA fails, then the EC will also fail, which will be more chaotic?
No, I don't actually share that view. When
the
Electoral Commission was not even relying on NIA, people more than those who didn't. 10 million Ghanaians, when they didn't even make the statement that everybody to be registered.
If the time comes, I want to get on the register, but because the NIA could not give me a card, and so I'm unable to get onto the register, NIA has failed because of something. Maybe something might have happened. The system failure, something happens. They are unable to deliver on the promises they are making. EC has changed the law, so I cannot get on the register of the guarantor system. What then happens to me?
Selorm, where we are, what has been happened, and the engagement we have with this
so you are going with assurance.
We have actually gone beyond that.
So assurance?
Yeah, there's an assurance that I am.
But you see, assurance is not enough for a critical matter
to make a law. I don't know whether whether we, you see, in certain instances, it was not everybody in Ghana who had the health insurance card when they said we should use it. It was not only everybody in Ghana who has a passport. You see,
but
that's why they were alternatives.
I don't know why this argument.
That's why they were alternatives. If you didn't have the passport, you may have NHI. If you didn't have NHI, you may get guarantor system. That's why they were alternatives. That's the logical reason why they were alternatives.
Okay,
now that you've been able to make your point, I will now proceed to make the case that, you see, our colleagues in the NDC, I don't know if it is the case that they want to bring foreigners into our register. I don't know if it is the case that they want to register minors into our register. That is why they are against the Ghana card. If it is not the case, then we should all be able to support and back NIA, back Electoral Commission for us to have a very clear.
The certainty of the access.
Even in Ghana here, even birth sets, people still have problem in having access to it. Even passport, people still have problems in accessing it. Yes, there must be yes, there might be institutional challenges. Yes, there must be operational hinges and other things. But it does not mean that at the end of the day we will not be able to meet or get to where we are. Where we are at the moment, the CI, you asked that critical question. Yes. We had a committee of the whole, and we were able to look at hear them up, we make our questions, and that. So the report of the committee of the whole will be prepared. When it is done, then we will now look at the committee.
Will you debate the report?
For committee reports, mainly it depends upon how we are going to look at it. We might and we might not. But when you look at the Constitution in Article 11, Clause 7, it is clear. I don't know whether they are going to physically prevent the Electoral Commission from laying a constitutional instrument. That I don't know. But what I do know is that members of Parliament, the Speaker, including any other person, doesn't have the constitutional right to physically prevent a constitutional body from laying a CI. The pre-laying consultation has been done. In fact, Electoral Commission met at IPAC. If NDC boycott IPAC, that is their problem. But an IPAC meeting was done. There was consensus. It has come to the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation. They agree in Parliament on the Constitutional Legislation Committee that they should use the NIA card. Now they have engaged us in Parliament at the Committee of. It doesn't mean that every institution will not have a problem. Even Electoral Commission in 2020 election, people had the voters' ID card, either going through the guarantor system or any other form. But they can't go there, either their finger is not picking it up or something. There's always an institutional problem.
There's a way of dealing with it.
So but the point is that we should not say that because of that challenges we are having, then we should be able to scrap it. As a country, we should move forward. As a country, we should be able to help our institutions to function. As a country, we should be able to have a very credible register. And I think that the path the Electoral Commission is following, it is the best. And if our colleagues in the NDC doesn't want us to have minors and foreigners in there, if you listen very well, part of the argument, if you look at it, it was very clear to them that, and I am very convinced in my thinking that they want to bring in minors and foreigners into the register. That is why they are pushing for this guarantor system, so that somebody could just sit somewhere and say, this person is my son, it's my daughter, put it there. This person is a Ghanaian.
I think there's a way around the guarantor system. There's a way of challenge. There's a way you can
I have explained it here under the CI 91. The guarantor system itself has the deposition of oath. The deposition of oath is not administered by a commission of oath. The deposition of oath is still being done by the registration officer, where the registration officer will say that, Habib, do you know so? You know, say, oh yes, he's a Ghanaian, he has lived in my house. Okay, then if you believe that someone is challenging, you need to fill this form. Then I'll just fill a form and guarantee him to register. We should be able to move from that system, whereby by the place of your finger, it should be able to, before you are enrolling in the register. What is going through my mind is that in 2024, should Electoral Commission, or should we have problems in various constituencies and polling stations because somebody have come to vote and others are saying that they are not Ghanaians, they are not this, they are not that. But with the use of the NIA card, it is going to make the register very credible. So I invite my colleagues that we should come in, just like any other reforms that we have done in the electoral process. Definitely there will be problems, definitely there will be institutional hiccup, but it does not mean it is not doable, and this is very doable.
Oh, no. So now they're saying that nothing can stop them, Speaker cannot stop them, nobody can stop them. What is the way forward? The pre-laying discussions and debates and consultations have happened. They will have to lay it. I've heard some of your colleagues say that they will fight tooth and nail to ensure that it doesn't get laid. What does that mean? What can you do about the process? Can you raise the 2/3 majority to annul the document? What can happen?
Well, Selorm, you asked a very, very significant question, which Habib, like he has treated many other issues that have been raised, hasn't been able to address properly. And that is the issue of making a law based on assumptions. The assumption that the National Identification Authority will live up to expectation. You pass a law based on that, knowing very well that there can be force majeure. Anything can happen. God forbid. You may have released this money, the cards may have been unlocked, fire, God forbid. Then what happens? You would have passed a law already that says that without the card, you know, people who have turned 18 cannot get on board. How logical is that? How reasonable is that? Especially when you have the choice of using other data sets to do your job required of you by the Constitution until such a time that the NIA finishes its work and its data becomes useful to you.
And that your set is the guarantor system.
What? No. I mean, I said use other data sets.
Example,
birth certificates.
So what about if all those don't also have the birth certificate? Do you know at a time
that is why
the birth set?
That is why there are alternatives.
Look,
today,
so I mean, the point is about alternatives or the diversification.
This alternative will zero down to guarantor system.
Today, Selorm, even the National Identification Authority cards are biometric. They are biometric. So forget about what the Supreme Court may have said about the National Health Insurance, cards system. But look at the practical case of how it has improved its data set today. It's biometric. I mean, and so I'm saying that there are alternatives that you can use instead of making this law based on the assumption that all things being equal, the NIA will deliver. What if the things don't become equal? But he can't answer that because you see, they are, they are simply refusing to see the logicality of the resistance. And you've asked, what next? Selorm, it is mandated by every citizen to defend the Constitution. If of is mandated. Act.
And we are foreigners.
And any act.
We are foreigners.
Selorm,
we are equally
any
doing
act.
So they're also defending. They're also defending.
Yes.
Any act by a foreigner or a citizen that seeks to overthrow any aspect of the constitution can be resisted even at the peril of one's life.
Exactly.
You are a lawyer.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Can be resisted even at the peril of one's life.
Like exactly.
And you see, when you quoted the relevant portion, Article 11, right? The right to vote and the entitlement to be registered.
That's Article 42.
Article 42. The right to vote and the entitlement to be registered cannot be taken lightly by any well-meaning Democrat. The right of a citizen to vote and his entitlement to be registered should not be taken lightly by any lover of democracy.
And you should also know that Article 11
it should not be taken lightly by any lover of democracy. So any
you can read
impediment,
Article 11 very well.
So
Article is very entrenched. It's an entrenched position, just like Article 42.
Yes.
Any impediment in the way of any citizen to enjoy that right to vote and to curtail his entitlement to be registered should be seen as tantamount to overthrowing an aspect of the Constitution, which must be defended at all costs. So we will continue the debate on the floor. I'm sure that the committee of the whole report will be, presented, and the necessary actions will be taken to further the democracy of this country. I mean, the NDC has always been, the bastion if it comes to the protection of this, because it's our baby. The Fourth Republic is our baby. And whatever it takes, even sometimes sacrifices that we make to the annoyance and to the disappointment of our supporters to keep this democracy going, we do. But we will not stand aside and look on whilst any aspect of this constitution is overthrown. But you see, my brother was advising me. Let me advise him too. Let me advise him. And I'm doing this from the bottom of my heart. I think that before this show ends, he must render two apologies. First, to the people he has told, and he knows, our parents, our grandfathers at home, that Hajj is not a mandatory call.
You see,
and that
when you go in that direction,
and that those who cannot afford, and that those who cannot afford should forget it.
I think you qualified it.
So you would rather have problem with God. You would rather have problem with
to say that those who cannot afford should forget it. You must apologize to those people.
You are miseducating the people.
Second advice.
So let's drop the Hajj one.
Second advice. My second advice.
You want to play politics?
My second advice.
We are dropping the Hajj.
I'm dropping it. Advice, he won't take. The second advice is that, look, that example of who likely a foreigner is insulting. To say that somebody comes with a Zalabia and somebody is selling.
I said that when
some of these things may be subtle.
They are renting.
But I am saying that when you use such examples in this context, listen, you are a member of parliament. I am sure your constituents, some of your constituents, have come to you with complaints that they have gone to register and they are turned away because they are suspected to be foreigners.
No, but they are not.
So when exactly, but because they dress like Nigerians.
But he said
when you use that example, you are not sensitive to the people you represent. Apologize for the people you represent. Apologize for the people you represent.
And it is happening. If you go to even in his constituency, there are people who are
our people. They have come to us complaining how they get turned away because you went to register in Ezalabia.
No, it's never true. It's never true.
And you are using that example.
What you are saying is never true. And you see, I was telling him that when you look at the two provisions in Article 11.7 and Article 42, they are all entrenched positions, but there's a limitation to Article 42. And my argument here is that what about those who turn 18 after October 7th, 2024? What about those who turn 18th in November? What about those who turn 18th before the 7th of December in Article 42? Definitely, they cannot be they cannot vote even if they are registered. But Article 42 said that if you are 18 years and above election. But what about if I turn 18 on the 20th of October 2024? What about if I turn 18 in November 2024? I cannot register. But what? I'm coming. It's a practical cases I'm telling you. And you need to understand. You are a lawyer. You need to be guided.
There's a legal exclusion.
And that become legal too.
And you see the Constitution.
If the Electoral Commission says that
operates
60
with
days
other laws.
election, we cannot. If you turn 18, you cannot be able to do that. And the second thing is that Article 11. He needs to understand that Article 11.7 have made it very clear for us to be able to understand the fact that Electoral Commission as a constitutional body should be allowed to lay its instruments before Parliament gazetted and pass into law. Anybody who stands to stop this is fighting the Constitution of the Republic of
Ghana. So that person has a resistance. That person has a resistance.
If I could just address the
he will go to the Hajj again. You just want to do politics about the Hajj issue.
You see, legally, the Constitution talks about its operational, it's being operated with other laws, right? So you have CIs, you also have, LIs, then you have acts that are passed by Parliament, not so.
Yes.
So the Constitution works with all of this. Now, there is that legal exclusion because the Electoral Commission Act is also a law. And the Act of the Electoral Commission requires it to finish registration at a certain time before general elections. So legally, if you are excluded because the Electoral Commission's Act, the Electoral Commission Act makes sure that they do. I mean, where is that argument coming?
I'm interested to know.
Where is that argument coming?
We're trying to get the Electoral Commission. We'll be interested to find out from them what the continuous registration will mean for people like that.
Right.
So that maybe we can have some clarity on that. Right. But frankly, it appears that we are not going to make progress on this. The lines are clearly drawn. We'll have a big fight in Parliament. That really is a concern. I don't know what you think can be done about it. The Electoral Commission wants to do what it will do. The majority thinks the Electoral Commission is right. Minority thinks that the Electoral Commission is not right. Franklin, are you there? All right. I don't think we are Franklin. This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM. We are also on City TV and then City Tube and Facebook. We're looking at the matter of the Electoral Commission's CI before Parliament, seeking to make the Ghana card a mandatory and the only card for registration. Frankly, if you are there, just 2 minutes. I'm concerned that we don't appear to be making progress. The two sides are stuck in their position. What can we do to have some middle ground? Is there a possibility at all of reaching some middle ground?
Well, there certainly must be, and I suspect that should be within the confines of common sense. Unfortunately, I'm a bit surprised that the position we are taking is one, especially the majority side, seem to be drawn into some sort of some morbid fear, probably misplaced, that some people will try to transport or import people to come and register on the road. I think those kinds of considerations are really far-fetched, really. I think the media is doing its bits already, and I suspect my civil society colleagues are calling on them shortly to see if they could make a joint statement in that regard as well, because it looks as if we've been quiet on this matter. I don't think it's fair to harass, if you like, people who would have to exercise their mandate to vote. I think it's only fair that when you design a law, you must have some escape routes as well, especially in our circumstances. We are not that developed, of course. I mean, the burden of people having to transport themselves, even though I didn't consider that crucially, I think it's something that ought to be taken into consideration. We cannot be too mechanistic. I think this CI seems to me, like I said, describe it as legal plunder. It's only aimed at, for instance, an adaptive story I know about trying to ban the sun from beating all of us, when we could as well ensure that we could create shelters for people to hide away from the sun. I don't think this CI will serve the best interest of the voter. We should allow some reason to prevail. And I wanted to ask my good brother Habib whether at all anyone from his constituency hasn't come to him, or probably through his own, should I call it, offices, with some sort of protest that, look, they've had challenges with getting the card, and that they'll be happy if there were any alternatives, if there are other alternatives to accessing the right to vote. I think we should allow reason to prevail, and rather than call it common sense, I think I'll call it common purpose.
I'm surprised the civil society hasn't really said much about this. Is it not getting too late to hear the clear voice of civil society for or against this, or urging some consensus on the matter?
Yeah, I understand that elements of civil society have done that, but in the case in a clear call for unison and, if you like, common purpose as I described, I think it would be better if civil society did a common, came around coalesced around a common position. And obviously the position would not be far-fetched from what I've just been saying.
Very well.
And I usually call on them to issue statements in that regard.
Very well.
I hope the majority would yield and then have some leeway for this exercise.
Very well. So for those wondering what specific provision in the CI that is about to be laid, or that is seeking to be laid before Parliament, a provision there says a person who applies for registration as a voter shall provide as evidence of identification the national identification card issued by the National Identification Authority. That is in the new CI that the Electoral Commission is seeking to lay before Parliament, which will mature and become law after 21 sitting days of Parliament. We'll take a quick break, return, and then we'll look at John Mahama and his 2024 bid. Don't go away.
Sense yet yasie esuto nanso form da so yedi ne senti ya hyehyɛ bibi sunku kra dia mamo ya to ne din sɛ high sense super promo ya niema ne buo no esa hwe ne nyina bio impo ya fa so mpo eye free so sɛ de be ya fa so na sa high sense super promo yi ewe showrooms nyina ewo Ghana for nyina high sense one amount 5 years manufacturer defect warranty ye niema border from change dia kanina e change dia kanina high sense e fe change dia kanina na ye papa change dia kanina kayo every 28 February akofim 8 March e ye high sense super promo. High sense, everyday prices for everyday people.
You're welcome. Before Parliament and all the matters arising. The two sides in Parliament are divided on the matter, and it remains to be seen how they will scale that wall. That CI must be laid before Parliament, will mature in 21 sitting days after it's been laid, and that we'll wait to see how it goes. Civil society, Franklin is saying, will have to coalesce around a position. Let's see what that position is, and so let's also hope that everybody partakes in this process so that everybody retains their right to vote, which is a constitutional right. We also urge the NIA to do what it has to do, and everybody should work to ensure that we don't have any issue on our hands. Now, to John Mahama. He launched his campaign this week, a couple of days ago, and he said quite a few things. And he's since been touring constituencies in the Volta region and been campaigning to be re-elected as the NDC flag bearer. Campaign been launched to be flag bearer of the NDC at the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho. This is a report from Benjamin Aklama.
Now, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, on Thursday, March 2, 2023, launched his campaign to lead the NDC to the 2024 polls as flag bearer at the City Auditorium of the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho. Convener of the John Mahama campaign team, Joshua Alabi, in his address to the delegates, said John Mahama is a modest yet competent builder the country needs crucially now.
Who is not only a proactive leader, but a nation builder who is also very modest, affable, good listener, and a unifier. Ladies and gentlemen, he is my candidate. He is your candidate. He is an affable, good listener, and a unifier.
Professor Alabi also said the current economic situation requires an experienced, tried and tested hand to take over the affairs of state. This hand, he says, is that of John Dramani Mahama.
For the past 6 years, the good people of this country have yet and continue to get for the return of the NDC. Having seen a clear difference between what we did and what the current government is doing. Congress, they are not just asking for the NDC to come back to power, but the return of experience, the return of experience. In this great house society today, experience is a key word.
The Dean of the Regional Chairman of the NDC, who doubles as the chairman of the NDC in the OT region, charged the delegates not to vote for any flag-bearer candidate who has not first contested and won a parliamentary seat for the NDC.
In NDC, God has given us a line. You can't be a president for NDC. If you want to be the president of Ghana and the National Democratic Congress, your constitution should give you the green light first. Then your region will give you. Then after that, you have been endorsed. People are just sitting and waiting. And you know, his first thing, I am not coming for the future. I am coming for today. Who has trained you to come today? Who has given you that mandate? Have you even joined the branch before? Have you been an assemblyman? Let alone an MP? How are you coming? You better join the line.
In his address to the hundreds of NDC faithfuls gathered, former President John Dramani Mahama said the next NDC administration under his leadership will scrap the payment of ex gratia to Article 71 public office holders.
Our country at this time urgently needs a leader with an unwavering desire to get things done in a no-frills, no-thrills, business-like manner. I'm aware of the extent of work that awaits the next government. There's so much to fix, there's so much to repair, and there's so much to heal. Ex gratia to members of the executive under Article 71 will be scrapped. And the next we will also begin the process of persuading the other arms of government other than the executive to accept the removal of these ex gratia payments.
Mr. Mahama also promised to have the BEC release challenges that saddle the process.
With renewed vigor, we will work to restore confidence in all institutions of state so that our people will see their institutions working for them as they should, with utmost professionalism and non-interference from political actors. We must, for instance, end the chaos that now characterizes the computerized school selection and placement system for BEC graduates. As a first step to resolve this issue with the computerized placement, we should allow students to only complete their applications for SHS after they have received their BEC results. This will put them in a better position to know what their actual grades are and make them able to match them with the cut-off grades and raw scores of the senior high schools they wish to be admitted. This will moderate expectation, ensure effective demand based on real results, and address the uninformed demands we currently see. It will also root out corruption and blatant discrimination from the school placement process.
All right, you're welcome back. So that was John Mahama at his campaign launch. He has since zoomed into action, visiting some 5 or more constituencies in the Volta region, selling his comeback message to the people in that region. And so essentially beginning his campaign to capture the flag bearer slot of the NDC and eventually and hopefully the national slot, the presidency. All right, let me start with you, Honorable Suini. This is your party. John Mahama, this is the 4th time he's seeking to be on the ballot. What's new that does he present? Does he have what it takes to
Mahama, pray to God to give me that temperament and ability to stay true to one's character, regardless of the storms that come at you. Selorm, you and I have been in this business of covering political activities for some time now, and you will agree with me that until President Mahama became president of this country, he was your model politician. Both NPP and NDC sympathizers encourage politicians to be like John Mahama. I lie? He was a model politician. He was the politician every political activist, praised for his character, for his temperament, for his focus. But immediately he became president, especially from his vice president days. And the NPP realized that this gentleman was a threat to their political fortunes, their, potential to character assassinate him. But guess what? He's remained John Mahama. Despite all the storms, despite all the attacks, he's not changed. He's still that affable, lovable, easygoing John Mahama. The debt that has been thrown at this man, you would have thought he would have been buried under it. The corruption allegations that for 6 years to prove even one have all fallen flat. And look at how vicious this government is. They have collapsed even businesses of people who are remotely related to politics. You think if they had anything on John Mahama, by now he wouldn't have been down. He's remained easygoing, smiling, and ready to serve. And look, Selorm, as former president, he could just say that I have nothing to prove. By the performance of this government, he's like an angel. Because in terms of infrastructure, in terms of managing our economy, in terms of job provisions, I just told you a while ago, unemployment that was about 5% is now over 15%. Fuel that we used to pay for Ghana cedis per liter is now over 16 Ghana cedis a liter.
Almost 14.
Exchange, yes, almost 14, sorry. Now, exchange rate that he was lambasted and insulted and castigated over, which was about 4 Ghana cedis, is about 13 Ghana cedis. Debt that he was castigated for piling up when he inherited it from about 80 billion and took it to 120, about 40 billion, today is almost 600 billion. An increase of about 400 billion. He could just say that I am vindicated. Posterity has judged me positively.
But
so
he wouldn't also want to remove
to live in the area of infrastructure, his handiworks are there. I mean, look at Accra. Let's not go out of Accra. Just look at Accra. Is it health? Rich Hospital? UGMC? Or the Bank of Ghana Hospital? Or Senate Hospital in Tema? I mean, what do you call it? The Maritime Hospital in Tema? Is it roads? Circle? The Gifford Road? Now the Mahama Road? I mean, it is there. What is there to prove again? This government for 4 years now, almost going to 4 years, have pulled down the General Hospital. It's lying there.
But they're also building the Obichebilamte Circle.
Well, again,
building quite a number of
again, the records even in Parliament shows that all of these were President Mahama's babies. All of this, the records in Parliament is there. So I'm saying he has nothing to prove. He could just say that I'm sitting home to enjoy my retirement. Because why? Presidents retire on all their benefits. So it is not about the comfort of being a president, because he can enjoy that without spending sleepless nights. As a president, he is still entitled to motorcade. He is entitled to a home that this government has not provided, and he's not complaining. He's entitled to his office being managed by this government, or any other government. This government is not doing that, but he's not complaining. So he could just say that I am going to have a comfortable retirement, especially when he's now a grandfather. But the love that he has for this country, Selorm, is unmatched. And if you doubt that, just watch him during Black Star games. Love for this country is unmatched. He's a patriot par excellence. And when he was president, why? I say he is a crisis leader. And I think that is why this.
He did not manage the Doomsor crisis well. I mean, the Doomsor crisis plunged us into a lot of difficulties. And the man you describe as a crisis leader, was the leader of our country in those times. And he endured Doomsor for close to 3 years.
Yes. So, Selorm, that's why I'm saying that, you see, President Mahama assumed office at a time that every energy expert had predicted that due to many years of neglect of the power sector was going to crash. In fact, under President Kufuor, we had Doomsor. You remember the toy machines Tarzan spoke about? When President Kufuor had to bring in generator sets so that it could augment power production in this country? You remember how pastors went to the Akosombo Dam to pray so that water could fill the dam? You remember? Under President Mills, there was Doomsor. And so it accumulated for years. Many leaders before President Mahama just, did not wash the soul. And so they just did dress rehearsals to solve the problem. And when he came and the problem was at his head, he said, I will fix it. And thank God to his hard work, because of his hard work, President Akufo-Addo may go down in history as the only president in the Fourth Republic who have not experienced Doomsor. And it is not because of his doing, it's because of the hard work of President Mahama. And I'll tell you why. What we had were generation problems. Our demand outstripped our generation capacity. President Mahama fixed that. And then Akufo-Addo has done such on generation capacity. What we had were challenges with fuel. Remember the West African gas pipeline? You and I used to report on it every time. When there are pirates and there's breakages and force majeure, and we have power crisis because the West Africa. We don't have that. In fact, journalists today don't know what we are talking about. Why? Because our trouble gas was fast-tracked and came on board. So the fuel situation was fixed. And as a result of that, Ghana is saving billions of dollars today in fuel purchase. He fixed the fuel crisis. I mean, the fuel issue with power generation. The third issue was the funding issue, financial issue. That we operated, the subsidy and all of that. He fixed that by introducing an unpopular tax that had the potential to cost him an election, and it did.
The ESLA?
The ESLA. But for him, it was about the next generation that is enjoying power today. It was not about the next election. So he introduced it in an election year. And the opposition, predictably took advantage of it and castigated him. Unfortunately, in power, they have mismanaged the ESLA, and it is known to everybody today that it is one of the reasons why we are doing a debt exchange program, because of how they mismanage ESLA and other such funds that they inherited. So, Dumso is an example of how President Mahama is a crisis leader.
And deputies. He didn't do that in the past. Why is he saying he wants to do that now? Is it because he wants to come back as president?
First of all, President Mahama has been consistent again. I mean, people say that the promise to scrap, what do you call it? Ex-Gratia was made when he was president. Yes, it was. Why? It was made in 2015, 2016, when he was campaigning for re-election. And he lost. So how were you expecting him to implement that when he lost the election? Because you're saying that in my next presidency, in my next government, I will see to it that this thing is addressed. In his nature of addressing problems. Because you see, the problems as you govern, you encounter challenges, you fix them. So as he was governing in his first term, he noticed that the issue of ex-gratia was a problem. So 2015, 2016, he made the pledge that he will fix it. He will scrap the ex-gratia. And he didn't win. How was he going to implement that promise? Now comes this other promise of running a lean government. He's always believed in a lean government. And that is why today it is so obvious that Nana Akufo-Addo's government is oversized. If he didn't presidential staffers to the in the last time, you can see that it is an oversized government because his predecessor, President Mahama, ran a lean government comparatively.
He said the problem,
and that was even at a time, that the economy was not in this dire straits. Even with the number of ministers, President Mahama ran a fewer number of ministers than Nana Akufo-Addo is doing currently.
Nana Akufo-Addo said he met a messy situation, which required the numbers to do it. So he did that the first time.
Unfortunately, with the numbers of 125 now reduced to 88, he has made it messier. Because everybody agrees.
External factors. No, it's not to blame. There were things that happened that were not.
Why? There were no external factors under President Mahama?
There was no COVID in Mahama's time. There was no Russia, Ukraine in Mahama's
time. Of course. I mean, but there were external factors. For example, I'll tell you, in 2013, 2014, go and check. The oil prices almost doubled worldwide.
But the effect of that
it affected the world. No, it affected the whole world economy. Fuel. I'm talking about fuel. It almost doubled. It affected the whole world economy. That was fuel. And you know the impact of fuel on transportation and everything. It affected the world economy. And President Mahama at the time just had one oil well. That was the Jubilee field. Product plummeted to almost zero. I mean, you can check the records. Then he was also faced with the policy introduction that led to the doubling of salaries. Single spine. And remember again, just one Jubilee field. Then there was Ebola later.
But Ebola didn't come to Ghana.
Why?
No, because
why? Why? Because of pragmatic measures that were taken.
No, but pragmatic measures
please. Even President Mahama, even at a point, President Mahama, yes, we even made this country, a center for the distribution of logistics to affected countries. But somehow we still escaped. It wasn't just, but yes, I mean, luck counts, grace counts, but it was also because of proactive measures that were taken. For us to begin to lead it.
We solved it, or we did the pragmatism or proactiveness would have.
Yes, you see, that's the point. If somebody helps you to avert an accident, you do not appreciate it like when you are taken out of the. Mahama, is a crisis leader, and he faced these challenges also, external factors. But around the time, even the capacity he had to deal with the problems, I mean, were not as much as the capacity this government has today. I'm talking about the oil in terms of resources. I'm talking about the oil revenue. Today, by the time he left office, again by his hard work, by the time he left office, he increased the capacity. That is by increasing the oil fields from 1 to 3. So you had the Sankofa,
the 10,
and the 10 coming on board, which President Akufo-Addo is enjoying. Revenue for President Akufo-Addo. In fact, he even saved money. About 200 million, Ghana cedis that was used to deal with COVID came from money President Mahama saved in our sinking fund. Today, assuming President Akufo-Addo hands over today and we have a crisis tomorrow, what will he have left for the government coming to solve it? What?
I see.
He has chopped current money. He has chopped the future money of this country.
I don't think Habibu will agree.
Oh, Esla is future money. That is future money chop. 14-year bond that they even tried to introduce. That's future money they wanted to chop.
Habib, listening to him, it looks like Mahama is the guy, and almost everything Mahama did, So you should be trembling that Mahama is coming back or is seeking to come back.
Yes, I think the direction was. Former President Mahama launched his campaign.
Yes.
We wish him well. We in the MPP, we want Mahama to win. And I would be surprised if the three other combined will get something up to 5% of the vote. I don't expect President Mahama to win less than 90. But the question is that President Mahama is a known commodity. He is a known commodity.
The
problems.
You see, the crisis builder.
Selorm, if you had crisis before, and now you are having crisis now, the effects are all there to be measured. President Mahama this country for more than 4 years, and we all know exactly what he did to the economy. What is he coming back to do? This is not a trial. What did he in fact,
a lot of things.
No, you see, when you look at that from that perspective, he has launched his campaign and he has said 3 main key things that I have listed. He said he is going to scrap ex-gratia of the executive, then reduce the number of ministers to what? 60. So let's do some logic. 60 executive. And per Article 71(2), these are the people that you can be able to scrap their ex-gratia. And the same constitution says that majority of your ministers must come from parliament. Right? Yeah. So can you scrap the ex-gratia of a member of parliament? You cannot do that. But the constitution is also telling you that the 16 ministers you seek to do, or you seek to have, more than 50% of them must come from parliament. So if you are saying that you will be able to scrap their ex-gratia, what about their MPs ex-gratia? Can you scrap that? What What have you cured? This is the president.
But I thought you said you work with the other guys, the other arms.
These are entrenched positions, and he needs serious things to be able to take it
You
off.
mentioned constitutional.
Yes, these are serious. He can't. They are entrenched positions. Maybe he needs to go through a referendum to be able to get that scrapped out. It is clear in the constitution. So the president cannot throw, former President Mahama cannot throw dust into our air.
But the intention to do
our eyes because intention is not doable. Because you have been president before. When you were president, and you now saying that you are going to reduce ministers and scrap extra. When you were president, people were taking double salary. When you were president, people were taking salary as ministers and taking salaries as members of parliament. You did nothing.
What have you done to those double salary people?
At the moment, under the President Akufo-Addo, if you are a minister and you are an MP, you choose one salary to take. Rather take if you are a member of parliament, you take member of parliament salary. If you are a minister, you take the minister. You cannot take. Were taking double salary. So what is he coming to tell us? Look, he talk about experience, and I like the part that he's coming. It's about experience, not about experiment. Yes, we have had enough of your bad experience. Experience is relative. Your bad, he's talking about experience.
He's talking to his party people.
Yeah, so he's talking to Ghanaians. That when he comes, it's about experience. It's not about experience. The experience we had about Dumso, the experience that we had that public sector recruitment was frozen, the experience that we had that people were laid back from work, the experience that we also have that you send us to IMF, the experience that we have of double salary, the experience that you said that you won't pay nurses and teachers allowances, the experience that you have that teachers were not paid for 1 year, the experience that you have that people work for more than 3 months and were not paid. What experience is President Mahama talking about? It is bad experience. Ghanaians don't need it. We have rejected you and we continue to reject you. It is not a try and lock administration. So you cannot lie your way back and rebrand yourself back to power. And since he has been there, you see, from Nkrumah till date, government comes, they construct roads, they do hospital, they do a lot of things. Yes, when my brother Sohini was talking, he mentioned about the Dumso, there was this and that. But when he's talking about the debt, he will tell you that John Mahama left a debt of 120. And he said when you go back to parliament, you look through the books, and majority of the things that this government have done was passed under John Mahama. So can we say that because they were not done with money being there, they were loan contracted? So can we add those debts to John Mahama and say he left those debts? So why do you want to take that?
But I thought once it's passed,
no. You see, the point is no. The point is that, for instance, if you go to a bank and you apply for a loan, and they've given you a paper that your loan is granted, you don't pay debt until there's disbursement of the funds. No, until they give you. Government have to spend 25 billion to be able to do the banking sector cleanup that mess that they left. Government have to spend a lot of money to restore some of the social interventions that the government ought to do. And we are running a free senior high school now. President Mahama is saying that when he becomes president, people will now be choose the schools that they want and other things. When you were president, you could not initiate a free senior high school where everybody in Ghana is one of the single most important policies that benefit everybody. Progressively, Nkrumah started the FQ program.
Progressively free.
Nkrumah started the FQ program.
FQ is a branch of the 1992 Constitution.
Yes, so what I'm saying is that at that time,
Nkrumah did introduce some free education in the north.
Good. For those people piloted. But for a single government to come and be able to bring a policy that touches every part or every Ghanaian under the free senior high school was not done for Akufo-Addo. My argument here is that during the Dumso that John Mahama was supervising, every month we were losing close to $57 million due to the collapse of businesses. And now times are hard. I'm coming. Times are hard. Times are hard.
You people just lie your way.
times are
business
hard.
were losing. You just told
Times
that
are
there.
hard. Things are difficult now because of the crisis that this government is in. I will shy away with it. I'm not saying that everything is good. I'm not saying that expectations of Ghanaians have been met due to the current crisis that we were having. But we have been confronted with two global crises. President Mahama was never confronted with any global crisis.
But he just mentioned that the commodity prices.
Which commodity prices? Which commodity
cocoa, which we exported.
No, listen. It was a China transaction. That China was determined. The commodity pricing was China. It was China transactions with other parts. No, it was not a global crisis.
But it affected us in a certain way.
In which way? As compared to COVID? As compared to the Russian-Ukraine war?
We made a lot of money.
That's what they don't. When you keep saying that, people always get that we made a lot of money. Majority of that money were loans. It is added to the desktop COVID. The money that came through COVID were not freebies. They were not free money given to us. They were loans given to us to manage it. But you see, at the end of the day,
the report shows you engage in corruption with it. The audit report you yourself have prepared, that you have watered down.
The same audit report, when President Mahama was president and said he was cutting 10% of salaries of his officials, the same audit report brought it back that some of them had gone to take the money, so there was nothing cut. Audit reports. But the point
they used it to build cheap compounds. I'm sure your
so you see, I'm saying that Ghanaians should understand. That's why when I say John Mahama is a known commodity, you should understand that he will tell us that he's cutting down salaries of his executive members, yet they go back to take the money in an excuse that they are building cheap compound. He will come again, or he will want to come again. And I know this is a former president that we know very well. He has been our president, and he's a president that Dr. Bawia will be our flag bearer. That one is a known fact. It's not something we need to be arguing. Like John Mahama is going to be their destiny. It's what they are doing is just a process. But at the end of the day, when John Mahama is elected their flag bearer, and we also elect Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, then we'll be able to know who will be able to govern this country very well. John Mahama has been our president. He has sent us to the IMF that we are complaining at the moment. He brought us Dumso. He couldn't pay salaries of teachers for more than 1 year. He couldn't bring nurses training allowances. He couldn't be able to pay teacher allowances. Unemployment was on the rise. Unemployment was on the... I am not talking... You see, when I'm making my arguments, I never brought President Mahama when he was vice president. I said he has been president for more than 4 years. That's what I'm saying. He was a commander-in-chief.
For 6 years.
I never made argument about when John Mahama was the vice president. I'm making my argument based on the fact that he was...
So you're saying that Bawumia should be absorbed of all the difficulties we are having, even though he promised us that the economy was going to be transformed. In fact, the reason why he was brought was that the economy will be transformed.
Selorm, let me help me understand one thing. Do you know any economy within 2021 that is not suffering? Has not been affected.
No, every economy has been affected.
So what I'm trying to say is that is why government is trying to revive the economy. During COVID time, you could see that the president made a certain statement, and we haven't been able to appreciate that statement. He said that we will do whatever we can to save lives, and after we'll be able to know what we can be able to do. That was a very big statement.
He knew how to bring back the economy to life, but
I don't know how to
bring life
back to life. The point is that
lives back.
So the point is that during that time there was lockdown. The country was locked down for about 2 weeks or so. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. It means that, what does that mean? It means that your GDP will come down because people were not working anymore. But people were receiving salaries, isn't it? So if no work done, we'll have to work for we'll have to work for government to be able to raise revenue to pay you. During that time, you were doing nothing, but government was paying you that. And we could see the same way in this country as we try to say, let's do this, let's do that. the economy that we are in now, our tax to GDP, we are still doing somewhere 13%, our tax to GDP.
Okay.
Ghana, as compared to our neighboring countries, when it comes to tax to GDP, we are doing the worst. So I think my nephew is about to go. We all have to go somewhere. But the most important thing is that we wish John Mahama well. We wish that he win over 95%. We know that he's the known commodity and he's the easier person for Dr. Bawumia to beat at all. John Mahama is the easier because we will campaign. We would not come and say this and that. When he was president, what he did, that's what we are going to hold him responsible.
Very well. Before you leave, a quick one. People have raised concerns about how executives of your party, for example, have thrown their support openly behind one of the candidates, Mahama, when there are other people in the race. People who are supposed to be executives are supposed to see to it that the process is fair. Why should they be supporting candidates? Is that proper?
There are some, arguments that I do not understand at all. I mean, if you choose to engage in a battle that you can't win, you don't blame anybody for, the symptoms of your failures. I mean, clearly, this was a needless.
But they are entitled to a free and fair, like a fair process.
They are entitled, but even before. Even before some of them became executives, they had made it known. And what the party has said is that you, as a person, have no right to use your position to declare support, on behalf of the people you represent with your position, for a candidate or against a candidate. But personally, you can support a candidate.
But
people are doing that.
That distinction is quite difficult to make, because if I am an MP, for example,
yes. To support, and we represent them, and so we are supporting. We have no option. We work at the pleasure of our constituents, and our constituents say it is John Mahama they want.
And so
that we should not make a mistake and contemplate over that choice. And so all 637 members have all declared their support for John Mahama. Exactly.
All right, very well. Right. We'll take a short break. We'll return, talk to Franklin Kujo, and then we will do a quick dash to the Electoral Commission.
One constituent told me that if John Mahama wants them to pay and vote for him, they'll pay and vote for him.
Wow. I see. So we'll do a quick dash to the EC to talk to the EC on the previous discussion, because we've now had him. But Franklin Kujo will tell us what he thinks about John Mahama, civil society, and everything when we come back from this break. This is a big issue. Don't go away.
Ghana, the land of vast minerals and rich natural resources. Ghana, the country with a fine blend of heterogeneous cultural expressions worth celebrating. The month of March is the Heritage Month on City, and we will be celebrating it in grand style with the theme, Make It Ghana. This is the season of all things Ghanaian, and City TV and City FM will be marking it with a month-long celebration of our heritage with a myriad of exciting activities just for you. We will be bringing you the Heritage Month on-air series with a focus on stories that reflect the diversified culture of our people, food, places, and music from the 1st to the 31st of March. Watch out for the Heritage Caravan Diaries and moments as we embark on a journey full of fun, education, information, great bonding moments with the Heritage Caravan from the 4th to the 11th of March. To crown the Heritage Month celebration, we will treat ourselves to delectable, authentic Ghanaian cuisine from the northern, middle, and southern zones of the country that reflect our true cultural diversity with a back to your village food bazaar from the 25th to the 26th of March, 2023. Remember to make it Ghana in this season of the Heritage Month and beyond. The Heritage Month on City is powered by City TV in partnership with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, National Film Authority, and Ghana Tourism Authority with support from City FM. And it is sponsored by the National Lotteries Authority.
You're welcome back to The Big Issue. We are live on radio on 97.3 City FM, and of course, obviously, on TV. We are on Facebook as well and on YouTube. We've been looking at the matter of John Mahama's 2024 bid and what some of his promises, analyze some of his promises and what the personality or the person of John Mahama represents for the politics of Ghana. Indeed, the MPP has said that he's a known commodity. They know him, and they say some of the things they say he did not do well. The NDC on the other hand, or his supporters have said that he is a crisis leader. He's a man Ghana needs now because Ghana is in a crisis, and he's demonstrated in his first stint at the presidency that he's a man to build Ghana. And indeed, Mahama has said that he wants to build and things are not well, and he's a man to deliver the goods. Well, on May 13, the party goes to the polls to elect a flag bearer. There are 4 persons in all vying for that role. Mahama himself, who hugely is a favorite. Dr. Kobnado, for former governor of the Bank of Ghana, former finance minister, is also in there. Kojo Bonzo, former mayor of Accra, and there are 4 candidates in all. And so the party goes to the polls to elect a flag bearer. Mahama is launched his campaign. We'll see what the rest will do in the next few days. But Franklin, Mahama has been president before. And how sure are we that some of these things he's saying now, reducing the size of government, scrapping ex gratia, etc., are things that indeed he'll be committed to, should he have another chance at the presidency?
Well, first of all, I think that the items he mentions, these headline items, have come across because of the exigencies of the times, right? Everybody seems to be talking about cutting costs, right? Everybody seems to be talking about the economy and the debt iceberg and all the challenges we have. So any politician who taps into those sentiments and then makes a clarion call may seem to have some sympathy. And of course, there's a difference between having sympathy for a call and actually actualizing the call when you get power. But I guess we are in different times, really. I mean, I will be surprised to see any politician who will come on the bandwagon this time around and then make promises and possibly do not keep that they do not intend keeping. That may be difficult, which means that we should do everything we can to ensure that before any politician passes that test, we must exact some sort of some charter, if you like, and accountability from them. I've always said that where we've reached right now, we do not just need people to come and tell us, I'll do A, B, C, D, and D. We should, even during the presidency or the tenure of such persons after having been voted for, we must have some charter by which you would have to live with. And the charter should be, for instance, you know the GDP of the economy. You take us from this percentage to that percentage. We want to see some verifiable improvement in our lives, right, in our incomes and all of that. If we can achieve a certain percentage point, then maybe you end up earning some sort of credit, and possibly those credits could be translated into BDB giving another nod at the next election. I think this campaign can be done quite well. Of course, if the media, like a very serious media house like Omni, rather I should say City FM and City TV, come to terms with this kinds of engagement in society, we should be able to exert our pound of flesh. But let me just piggyback a bit and say that, there's something else that struck me at the Mahama campaign launch. possibly even before that, is that he seems to be getting into investing also in the sentiment of collaborations or consultations. I recall being part of a meeting he called for civil society actors, and I think that meeting was titled "The Building the Ghana We Want Together." So I'm not entirely surprised to have heard the same mantra at the launch of his campaign.
And was this meeting? When was this meeting? Recently?
Oh, this was last year actually.
Okay.
It was an open meeting. This was a public meeting, and we had a series of rounds where we answered certain questions that were asked of us by the organizers. I thought it was an excellent opportunity to get ideas into his manifesto, possibly, but it sounded to me that it was quite sincere. Because I mean, this is someone who has been president before. He's been at the helm before. And given the challenges we have, and given particularly the conversations around lack of consultations on very critical national matters that we have to deal with lately, it looks to me that anybody who taps into that very vital resource of consulting people and saying, well, I may say that I want to cut back the number of ministers, I want to do away with Article 71 holder beneficiaries. I want to do ABCD, restructure the economy. But he's also saying something else, that he wants to do this together. And in that togetherness, I suspect he wants to tap into the minds and, if you like, the expertise of everybody who matters to this country. That seems to me to be quite refreshing. And I hope that other politicians who want to be presidents in the other camps as well may have to tap into those kinds of sentiments. I think that's what we need right now. We don't need Captain Planet's one-man type of show. We really need that consensus. And I see traits of that, by the way. Of course, Mr. Mahama needs to convince us, as I've said earlier, that his policies indeed, even if they were reached through consensus, are timed, are measurable, and are deliverable.
So yes, one of the promises he mentioned or he made, like you said, has to do with scrapping ex gratia for the executive. But like Honorable Habib pointed out, the executive, yes, Constitution says that majority of your ministers must come from Parliament, and he did not say he will scrap for the legislators or the parliamentarians or the judiciary, which means that the parliamentarians who will form the bulk of his government will still be on the ex gratia. Of course, he did say that he will have discussions with them or he will try to convince them. I mean, there will be constitutional review, etc. But it appeared that just scrapping it for the executive may not be far-reaching enough, because in any case, majority of those people in the executive who are entitled to, or who are Article 71 of his. What do you think about that?
I do not intend speaking for President Mahama, but I would have thought that by deduction, by reasoning of deduction, if somebody says that the bill from the executive is actually strangling the country, I'll be surprised to see the same person saying that even though his ministers will be tapped from Parliament, they would have to be paid double salary, or indeed also keep to receiving ex gratia. I'm struggling a bit to understand how that could be the case if the original point is that I want to reduce the size of the impact of the overall on the overall economy of the wages and benefits that people receive from the executive. I thought I heard President Mahama also suggest that he's going to talk to the other constitutional holder, the judiciary and the others as well, maybe Parliament, to also get on board. I can understand this is a huge ask. And of course, if he's able to get it done, it would have shown seeds of some sort of certainty about his intentions about cutting costs. Having said that, though, I know politicians are very clever, smart, clever. I'm using it in a pejorative manner. While cutting one item back, they may find other means as well. I think there must be a root and stem approach to dealing with this whole issue about oversize, overbearing stretch of the economy when it comes to the emoluments of politicians or public office holders. So I do not understand that argument by my good friend Habib, by the way, but I would understand that it's politics.
So I mean, I don't know if you've seen alternatives being preached or being suggested. Of course, civil society, you guys have said, and indeed that is a position, that when you are in opposition, you also, apart from criticizing government, must provide alternatives. Do you see the provision of those alternatives in the recent utterances or outings of Mr. Mahama to place him as the guy we should be looking at because he appears to have some solutions or alternatives? Do you see that?
Well, I think I've heard quite a few of them, even before this launch. I mean, some of his national statements and international statements he's made all point to the fact that he would be a different person when it comes to managing the economy. The economy is at the roots of every country's, if you like, future. And to the extent that we are dealing with an economic crisis right now, anyone who wants to profess solutions, or indeed has been preparing solutions based on the parameters that have been used to get to where we are today, and then trying to suggest that he or she will do something different, certainly must be heard. And I think I've heard quite a few of those things. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about realigning, if you like, the interest of Ghanaians as against that of the politician in restructuring this economy. And to that extent, I think I've heard a number of things he says he would like to do. We are yet to do the quantification, but it's soothing to hear that at least for certain very high-profile things like the ex-gratia, the overall size of government, which has become a thorny issue, is willing to go on a different path. And I think that those things are encouraging. But more important, indeed, is the point he makes that, look, I've seen it all. I don't think wisdom lies in one head. This time around, I like to build a country together with you. So what is the Ghana that we want? Let's build it together. As I said, intentions are different from reality or actions. After these intentions, should he get the nod and ultimately be voted for to come back to power again, he has to be measured based on the things he said. And we'll be there together with you guys in order to exert those accountabilities. Same goes to all other politicians as well.
I see. Finally, and just briefly, how should we see John Mahama? Do we see John Mahama should we still see him as a pre-2016 John Mahama, or we should see him as a different person in opposition and going around the country and learn a few things? And even if we are to see him as the pre-John Mahama, would it be any worse than what we are seeing currently? And so, if he was still the 2016 John Mahama, should he earn the right to come back, even if he were the same?
There's something I would like to share, and perhaps possibly a confession as well. You know, look, we were at the height of Mahama's rule. I mean, Imani and its acolytes like OG, Occupy Ghana, which we were also responsible for forming, did quite a lot, right? There was a lot of interest in interrogation about Mahama's policies and all of that. I mean, the critique was much harsher than we have it today, right? And to be fair, maybe people will say that at the time, the issues also defined why we needed to campaign against some of the infractions, and I agree. But in all of those, I remember Mahama once called me and said, look, I appreciate all the things you're saying. I know I could have done something different, but, well, I'm also part of a government that has challenges. In spite of that, we still went after him for the things that he's superintended upon. That type of sincerity, of actually reaching out to your supposed, if you like, adversary. In this case, some of us, you know the adversary I'm referring to. But then in that calm manner and collected manner, not to woo me over or woo us over. But the idea was that, look, there are clear existential challenges that I face. And I still read everything you guys say. But let's hope that things will turn a different patch. I must confess that there were quite a lot of investments he made, which actually were responsible for the growth that we experienced in 2018, 2017 as well.
Very well. Thanks so much, Franklin Kujo. Thank you so much for North. You also heard the Honorable Habib Idrisu, Deputy Majority Chief Whip and MP for Tolon. And as our guest for today, my name is Selorm Adonoo. Catch you again next week, same time. Have a good afternoon.